Love to turn to college football and get your thoughts, Bruce Feldman, on this super conference that's emerging with the SEC in Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, it's gone such a crazy turn in the last week. So in the short part of this, so Texas and OU really were the two programs that drive a lot of the money and the eyeballs when it relates to the TV viewing audience for the Big 12. Obviously, those are the blue blood programs there. Oklahoma's had a lot of success in recent years with Lincoln Riley. Texas has been really up and down, but not all that up. This thing has been in the works for a while. We've obviously heard a lot about it in the last week. Everything I'd heard from talking to people around the Big 12 is okay. You know, ESPN and Greg Sankey have really been in the middle of all this. They've been taking some financial models and see that this is a big shift that is going to happen at the top of the food chain in college football. To me, what's really interesting here is Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, was on a small working group with the AD of Notre Dame, another group of five, Commissioner Craig Thompson from the Mountain West, and then the fourth person is Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12. They had spent a long time, months and months, secretly talking about how to expand the playoff or what to do with the playoff. So while all those conversations were going on, all those meetings, Greg Sankey was basically not divulging or, keeping Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, in the dark about the moves he was plotting, which were basically going to gut the Big 12 and the Big 12's identity as we all know it. I mean, that's it's a really stealthy, really spicy stuff that was at the core of all this that's going on right now. And there's a lot of more dominoes that are going to keep toppling over from here.
By the way, that's your next book. FYI, that's your next book. What's going to happen to Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is as usual, is in a strong financial position. They have a lot of leverage in terms of, if the Big Ten decided it felt like it was in its best interest to expand, Notre Dame would be a big target. The ACC, where Notre Dame played this past year and has a lot of its sports are now competing in, I think that is something that would be attractive to the ACC. And if you're the SEC, you'd be like, okay, this is a huge brand with a lot of success, and they've had a lot of good football teams of late. I think they would be attractive to the SEC. And from what I was told, Notre Dame was part of a financial model that Greg Sankey and ESPN had projected in this process. So, my guess is Notre Dame is going to sit back and see what exactly is the best. They love the idea of being unique and independent. Can they sustain it at the same level going forward if there are really two superpower conferences? Let's say one is obviously the SEC, the other one is some version of the Big Ten. After that, I don't know what USC, which it doesn't have as much bargaining power as Notre Dame, but still has a lot. And I think, one other thing I've heard that is significant, but it factors in for Notre Dame, is some of these other conferences, especially the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants to be in business with AAU, high academic accredited institutions, and Notre Dame is that. So that just only adds another chip in their pocket. But to see how they decide what's in their best interests, that's like many of the TBDs. But that's a big domino out there.
What do you think the end game will be?
I think you're going to see a lot more movement. I also think you are going to see a bunch of schools that were previously aligned with powerhouse programs in big conferences, meaning if you're a Big 12 program and you are, that's a Power 5 league, you were in the same league and still technically for now are with Texas and Oklahoma, you were seen as not a mid-major program. I think what we're finding out, and what a lot of people in Greg Sankey's orbit already know, is if you are not one of those blue blood big TV brand programs, that's the differentiator. So, for instance, while Oklahoma State or Texas Tech, they have played these other, two elite programs for years, and they have leveraged some of that because they get the TV money. But I think when it comes to the reality, when you study those TV numbers, and again, that's where a lot of this money comes from, most of it, is they're probably closer to AAC programs, to Tulsa and to, I don't say, like Cincinnati, than they are to Texas and Oklahoma, or than they are to Ohio State and Alabama. Because even in the games, Oklahoma State plays Oklahoma in their big Bedlam game. That gets a lot of attention. If Oklahoma State is playing Texas Tech, or is playing Baylor, or is playing Kansas State, it just does not have the same appeal, and that is a harder sell for the TV people who are going to be, footing the bill for this. And so that's the part where I think you're going to see a bunch of these programs get squeezed, because they will not be able to command the same price, or anywhere near the same price, that what you're going to see from the SEC, going to see from the Big Ten. And it's going to be survival of the fittest, and that's going to have a lot of unintended consequences all the way down the line from this, too, I think.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.